The Washington Capitals trading Dmitry Orlov in a three-team trade. The full trade being the Washington Capitals trading. Oh my, I don't even know how to explain this. So it was a three-team trade involving the Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins, and the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild, the only reason they were in this trade was to retain half of Dmitry Orlov's cap hit from the Capitals, and they also got a 2023 fifth round pick out of this. But the Washington Capitals trade away Dmitry Orlov, Garnett Hathaway, and Andrei Svetlikov, his signing rights. And they go, the Bruins get those three guys. The Washington Capitals get Craig Smith, who I was very surprised was involved in this trade going to Washington. They get a 2023 first round pick, a 2024 third round pick, a 2025 second round pick, and it also says from Minnesota, Andrei Svetlikov. So I'm not exactly sure what happened. I'm not exactly 100%
I
sure
think I
what
think
happened there.
Minnesota retained Cap.
Yeah, they retained 50% of
Orlov.
Dmitry Orlov.
So that's probably the player they got in return
Anyway,
from
so that
Boston.
is basically Svetlikov is the minute detail of this trade. The Washington Capitals traded Dmitry Orlov basically and Garnett Hathaway for a first, a second, third, and middle six forward Craig Smith, who I can honestly, like I said, was honestly surprised he was involved in the trade. I can see Washington flipping him before the deadline. But what are your thoughts on this overall trade? Mainly Boston getting Dmitry Orlov and Hathaway.
Well, yeah, so good for Boston. I think Garnet Hathaway and Dmitry Orlov are two pivotal players that you'd like to have in the playoffs. I mean, Garnet Hathaway is an excellent bottom six player. Dmitry Orlov is a top four defenseman, and we saw how much, top four defenseman and bottom six wingers by that, for that matter.
You could also
Are
argue that Orlov is a top pairing defenseman.
You could. You certainly could. So Boston got a lot better. And, when I said earlier in the episode that the Eastern Conference is just absolutely stacked, Boston making this move, is right up there with that. And we just talked about the Tampa Bay Lightning and how much better they got with Tanner Jeannot, at least in the present, maybe not for the future. We spoke about the Toronto Maple Leafs and how this could potentially be their year, and we haven't even discussed the Boston Bruins, who only have 8 regulation losses on the season and just added one of the best bottom 6 players in the league, quite frankly, and Garnet Hathaway. I mean, really, he's an impactful player, and both Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway were excellent in their Bruins debuts. And like you said, Dmitry Orlov is a top pairing defenseman. And look at that defensive core for Boston. I mean, Hampus Lindholm is having a career year. Charlie McAvoy is Charlie McAvoy. You add Dmitry Orlov to that, that's an embarrassment of riches, especially when you have Linus Olmark, who is a Vezina candidate, and the forward group that they're able to put out there. And let me just also note, Shades, I'm not surprised that Craig Smith was a part of this deal. It had to be done for cap. Craig Smith is making $3.1 million. And I think from Washington's standpoint, I don't think that they necessarily just want to throw in the towel at this point. I think if any indication of our beloved New York Rangers facing the Capitals on this weekend, they still got a lot left in the tank. So, adding a player like Craig Smith who can help in the now is good for them. But also they get draft picks, draft capital, and they need that because the Capitals, quite frankly, have the worst prospect pool in the NHL.